side by side reveal Bernie Sanders as the ultimate fraud. Bernie Sanders has been a vocal critic of President Trump's response to Charlottesville, Virginia violence. As reported by The Hill, the Vermont senator said it was embarrassing for the president to assert that both sides share responsibility for the deaths of 3 people. A photo published on Twitter that has received thousands of likes and retweets juxtaposes Sanders' claim that Trump is to blame for the Charlottesville incident with reporting indicating that James Hodgkinson, the shooter of Congressman Steve Scalise, was a dedicated Bernie Sanders supporter. Fun game. Do you think the president bears some responsibility for what happened in Charlottesville? Absolutely yes. Suspect in congressional shooting was Bernie Sanders' supporter, strongly anti-Trump. Sanders took issue with Trump's statement that both sides at Charlottesville were engaged in violence. As the Los Angeles Times noted, Trump condemned neo-Nazi, white supremacists, and the Ku Klux Klan. Trump's deviation from the position held by the majority of the mainstream media is in acknowledging the presence of violent, anti-fascist Antifa operatives among the crowd or left-leaning counter-protesters at the Unite the Right rally. At a press conference, Trump talked about Antifa and the alt-left, asking, "Let me ask you this. What about the fact they came charging? That they came charging with clubs in their hands, swinging clubs. Do they have any problem? I think they do." Sanders disagreed with that assessment, questioning the use of the term alt-left and arguing that no such movement exists within the American political left. The former Democrat presidential candidate made his case on Twitter. The violence in Charlottesville was not caused by the alt-left, whatever that may be. It was caused by neo-Nazis and white supremacists. For Sanders, the demonstrators who protested the removal of Confederate monuments were the originators of the fatal violence. Here's Bernie Sanders' tweet. "The violence in Charlottesville was not caused by the alt-left, whatever that may be. It was caused by neo-Nazis and white supremacists." Do you know he's talking about basically most of America? I mean, basically, he's dissing most of America. I mean, it's just totally disturbing at this point. Eyewitness accounts suggest a different story, as covered by the Daily Wire. A New York Times reporter on the scene at Charlottesville posted to Twitter his observations of left-wing Antifa with clubs beating attendees of the Unite the Right rally. There you go. These are paid people to cause disruption through Soros. I mean, that's basically the bottom line. Who in their right mind is going to do something like that? Really? Who? Except these paid agitators, and then the rest of the idiots following the left, who are not being paid, are getting brutalized in the process. So they pay a couple of them, and the other innocent idiots, they're getting attacked also. I mean, it's just, it's sickening at this point. The Times reporter's remarks are critical of Charlottesville police. He asks how local law enforcement let the situation get out of hand. Actually, yes, that is true. The Daily Caller noted that the police were told to stand down in Charlottesville as the protesters and counter-protesters came to blows, all paid by Soros to stand down. These sellouts of this country. WCNC observes that Unite the Right had a permit for their gathering. In light of this, observers have argued that the two groups should have been kept apart. Sure, absolutely. They should have. Sanders' comments, on the other hand, right, place the blame squarely on the shoulder of the white supremacists and President Trump. Listen, people are awakened. People are awakened to this crap. Really, believe me, there are only a few idiots on the right that are supremacists. The widely circulated Twitter pictures suggest a parallel between blaming Trump for Charlottesville and blaming Bernie Sanders for the shooting of Republican lawmaker Steve Scalise, who has only recently been released from the hospital after suffering nearly fatal injuries. USA Today reports that James Hodgkinson, the man who shot Representative Scalise, was a fervent Bernie Sanders supporter who volunteered for the Vermont senator's presidential campaign. Hodgkinson also deeply hated Trump and went to the Alexandria, Virginia baseball field with the intention of killing Republican politicians. A psycho, in other words. The juxtaposition of Trump and Sanders suggests a moral equivalency between the two tragedies. Twitter users are employing it to argue that if Trump is responsible for Charlottesville, Sanders is just as responsible for the horrific shooting in Alexandria. While both notions are absurd, absurdities are often mistaken as fact when it comes to social justice activism. Yes, that is true. That is true. Because in one sense, Bernie Sanders wasn't responsible for what happened in Virginia, because he was just a nut job. What happens if there's another Trump nut job that does it? Trump's not responsible for that. These are nut cases. That's basically bottom line. But when we're talking about the protest, they start attacking the right. I mean, excuse me? Yes, both groups are responsible. But again, what are you going to do? Not defend yourself? I just can't see this. The police should have had them separated, not been told to stand down. The mayor was a Democrat, so that's why he was telling the police to stand down. And you can certainly be sure that he was paid off, this mayor. Definitely. I mean, people are not stupid today, really. We're not that stupid. They think we're stupid, but we're not. There's only a few that are idiots. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And again,